Hello, I'm Wayne Hogan. I grew up in this church. And when I grew up, there was never a question of whether we might go to Sunday school or church. We were going to Sunday school or church unless we were sick. And as I think back 70 years ago when I was in kindergarten, I try to remember some things. And I remember Miss Susan Williams was in charge. We had a lot of fun activities, real good punch and cookies. And we had a lot of good times on the playground. We had wooden equipment out there that was made by Dr. Eddie Durant Sr. I also think back about the cherub choir. I'm reminded of those days when I see these children all dressed up in their white robes, singing Jesus Loves Me, because that was me 70 years ago. I also remember the old Sunday school building. The old Sunday school building sat right where our Sunday school building is now. It was an old wooden building. When I was a little boy, we had Sunday night programs there. It was called Nightals. We had Bible games, we had supper and fun, and also remember Easter egg hunts that we used to have. Right where the porte-cochere is located now behind the church, back then there were a lot of big green bushes, and that's where they like to hide Easter eggs. I can remember one time I was in there finding some eggs, and I found an egg that had been left there from the year before. And I promise you, it was not in good shape. I remember the manse where Dr. Cliff McLeod and his family lived. It was located over by the Sunday school building. We used to have activities in there from time to time. I think about church sermons. As a little boy, church sermons were long and boring. And back then, a lot of us during sermons would count the window panes in the window. There are 123 window panes in those windows. Now they have shutters up there so you can't count them. I kidded previous minister Ed McLeod one time about putting those up so people couldn't count them while he was preaching. Back in those old days, sometimes we would leave church right before the third hymn, go down to the C&W cafeteria on the corner of Main and Law Range for lunch. I remember telling my daddy one time, I said, you know what, I got a good idea. So that we'll get a better place in line, why don't we leave right before the sermon? He said, no, one of the main reasons you come to church is for the sermon. The present Sunday school building was built when I was in the 6th grade. I can remember distinctly, prior to our Sunday school classes, we would assemble in one of the rooms where Mr. James Brown would lead us in songs and a devotion, and he always took up the offering. Every time he took up the offering, he would say, Father in heaven, these offerings now we bring thee, all gifts are thine, we give thee but thine own. Of course, he sang a lot better than that because he was in the chorus, but I still remember that because he sang it every single Sunday. After we broke up in that room, we would go to our individual classes where we had 2 6th grade teachers. My teacher was Mr. Flop Shaw, Whit's father, and the other one was Sonny Creech, who was Steve Creech's father. Later years, I can remember some of my teachers were Irvin Shaw, Big Fred Brogdon, and Bubba McElveen. After Sunday school, lots of us from time to time would go across the street to the B&H gas station, which was located where the bank is over there now, and we would get a 6-ounce Coke and some crackers and then head to church. Sometimes we stayed over there and cut church, but it wasn't very often. I remember Camp Harmony, the old cabins down there. We had real good food, many activities, Bible study groups, and we met a lot of kids from other churches in the Harmony Presbytery. They also had a real nice swimming pool, and they were always having nice swimming contests that we were involved in. Years later, when I came home from college, the college teacher was Mr. Whitshaw. Mr. Whit was Whit's grandfather. He was big into Gideons, and he gave all of us a Gideon Bible. I don't remember a lot of what was said by Mr. Shaw, but I do remember that he said, don't ever put anything on top of a Bible except another Bible. I still adhere to that today. After we were married and moved back to Sumter, we attended First Presbyterian Church, and our Sunday school teachers, as I recall, were Conley Alexander, Sam Hunter, and Miss Catherine White also taught. There's still a plaque in the hallway on the third floor where they commemorated Miss White's class. In 1978, I got a call one night from my friend Marion Myers, who said, "Wayne, I got two girls playing YMCA basketball, and they don't have a coach, and I've agreed to coach them. Will you help me?" And I said, "Marion, I don't know anything about coaching basketball." And I'll never forget his response. He said, "Neither do I." We inherited a team that had been coached by Sam Hunter. Now, Sam Hunter knew how to coach, and that team had won all their games 4 straight years. Our first year coaching, our star was 10-year-old Julia Muldrow now, and we went through the regular season and won all of our games. We got to the tournament, and back then, the tournament was all that really counted. It was like the finals of the NCAA. We got into that last game, and at the very end, we lost. It was complete devastation. All the girls were crying. It was very tough on everybody. The next year, we coached again, and most of our players were coming back, and we had a good team. Went through the regular season, and we lost a game or so, but we got into the finals again of that tournament at the end, and we played Trinity, the same team that had beaten us the year before, and we won that game. Susan Creech and Laura McEwen were our heroes, and it was absolute ecstasy. It was the exact opposite of the year before. We became great friends with the parents of those players and have remained great friends ever since. Some years later, I got a call from Wesley Blanding, who asked if I would teach a 5th grade Sunday school class. And I thought about that, and I said, well, 5th grade, that's about my speed. Maybe I can handle that. So I taught for several years, and we had wonderful kids that went through there. Trip Brogdon, Chris Denny, and Mark Van Bullock, all of whom are now Presbyterian ministers. Several years after they had gotten through, I remember going up to class one Sunday, and as I got to the classroom, I could tell it was loud, it was noisy. I opened the door, it was real rambunctious. One little boy was under the table, on his back, kicking his legs and moving his arms all around like a roach. I got real upset with him, and he knew it. After Sunday school, I told his mother about it, and she said he absolutely shouldn't have been doing that, and she was very apologetic. The next week, I got a letter from him apologizing for doing that. That kid, he's now married. He's got his own kids. And oh, by the way, he's a physician. It reminded me of what old Dr. Cliff McLeod told me years before when I was teaching a little class, and we had some rambunctious kids. He said, Wayne, just remember, they all turn out good in the end. Several years later, that same Sunday school class, we had rotating teachers, and for some reason, the teacher didn't show up. Fortunately, it wasn't me, but in that class was Randall McLeod, Mackie Daly, John Hilton, and Joseph Safford. Those are 4 that I know were there. And what did they do? They got the lesson book out and had their own lesson. So you just never know. I've been fortunate to be a deacon and an elder. It's been a great honor. I've enjoyed being able to serve in that capacity. It's also an honor for me to give back to the church. All we have was given to us by God. And I remember Jeff Aiken one time saying, you know, it's physically good to put an envelope in the offering plate every Sunday. I always enjoyed doing that. He was exactly right. Now, speaking of Jeff Aiken, when he was a minister, he decided that we needed to have an out-of-town officer retreat. I was on the committee to find a place to have it, and I got a call from him one day, and he said, have you ever heard of Spring Maid Beach? I said, no, but I'll check it out. I checked it out. We made plans to go. There weren't enough officers to go, so we opened it up to any adults. We got down there and we stayed in an old concrete block building that have since been torn down. Now they've got new buildings down there. But that first year we had 38 people that attended. We met in a classroom of the old registration building right when you come into the area there. Our speaker that year was Dr. Frank Harrington. He was the minister of the Peachtree Presbyterian Church in Atlanta. He had grown that church from 2,000 members to 11,000. So we had a great speaker, a great weekend, and he was excellent. The second year we went down there, our speaker was Bobby Wilkes. I remember his topic was about love that weekend. When we got down there, the conference center was brand new. They had just finished it up. Matter of fact, when we got there on Friday afternoon, we were the first people to ever use it. And when we got there, the signs on the men and women's restroom had not even been put up yet. The staff had to show us a panel box how to control the lights. So that was the first time, again, that building had ever been used, and we used it many times since then. We had 30 different beach retreats. Linda and I were fortunate enough to attend all of them, and we had a great time. They were very good. Also remember habitat houses. Our church built several habitat houses, and several years, Kerry Jackson was in charge of the building. Now, Kerry, he knew how to build a house, and he gave many of us instructions as to what to do, whether it be hold a measuring tape, cut a board, or something like that. I remember one year, I got fairly good at one of the menial tasks that he had given me. Decided I would play a little trick on him, so I said, Kerry, I'm getting so good at this, I think I might start a little construction company on the side. And Kerry, with his old Tennessee drawl, he looked at me and he said, don't think I'd give up my day job just yet. He was always a character. I always enjoyed him. I love my church. It's a great family. They're wonderful people. Both our girls were baptized and married here. I look forward to coming to church each Sunday and being with our family. My wife, Linda, is also very active in the church. She's been on many committees. She's serving as an elder now. She's the wedding coordinator at our church and has directed over 35 weddings here. She's also heading up the 200-year anniversary. She grew up in the First Presbyterian Church in Everett, Washington. I grew up in the First Presbyterian Church in Sumter, South Carolina. We met at the First Presbyterian Church in Honolulu, Hawaii. We just had our 50th anniversary. The fact that we met in church and have been Presbyterians so long, well, I guess you just have to say it was predestined. Being a Christian and knowing you have eternal life is the greatest, most comforting feeling you can have on this earth. Thank you very much.